Good morning, and I hope that you are in constant learning mode at this conference, and also I know that you're in constant idea mode. A lot of you have come up to me during breaks and said, I've got this idea, or have you thought about this? And I want to encourage you to keep doing that. And certainly with yesterday's keynote speaker, there's more ideas than ever flowing around. So I want to share with you this morning first, some ideas that I'm thinking about based on what you've been telling me over the past year. And then I want to share with you a little bit about what's on the horizon immediately for us, and then do a quick refresh and review of what our wonderful staff has been doing back at the office. I've had the great fortune of keeping my road trip going with visiting member boards. And this year, I've done formal visits to 8 of your boards and a lot of other conversations with you at conferences like this throughout the year. And I've started developing a sense of how can NCARB go deeper in providing service to our member boards. We've talked a lot in the past several years about service to our customers. We've streamlined the AXP. We've reinvented the ARE. We're now engaging with the academic community on the 3 E's. And of course, we have continuous improvement with our software programs, our customer service, our emerging advocacy role. But there are some fundamentals about what you do every day for your public and your state and jurisdictional governments where I'm noticing some stress around capacity. There's things you want to do, there's things you think you should be doing, but you're not able to do it. Lack of staff, lack of funding, lack of prioritization by your legislature or your governor is creating a stress point, it's creating a shortfall where your mission to protect the public isn't always being fully realized. You've confided in me with your frustrations, and I've been thinking about, is there an NCARB partner role that we can develop that goes even deeper than what we're currently doing? So I want to talk about 4 concepts. Marketing and outreach, data management, investigations, and advocacy. Some of these you've heard us talk about, but I'd like to go deeper, or to use our tagline, go further with you on each of these topics. So let's talk first about marketing and outreach. It's clear in this climate of questioning the value of regulation, the value of what you do, that there's a story to tell about the value you are delivering to the citizens in your jurisdiction. And yet, to deliver that story effectively, you need the capacity to collect and analyze data. You need to write it and present it and deliver it in a way that will have a political impact on your elected officials. And it has to have a value proposition, tenor to the conversation. Most of you, I would bet, don't have staff on your payroll that can be assigned to this task. It's catch as catch can. We have the data. We have the capacity. We have the ability to provide analytics. We can help you, whether it's a sunset review, whether it's an annual report, whether it's a statement that you need to issue to the public. We want to step in with you and help be your extra eyes and ears, arms and legs, hands and feet, and get you to the right place where you're telling your story in a compelling and effective way. We're not talking about a cookie cutter, here's what you should do. We're talking about a conversation on how we can customize and meet your needs where you are. So I want to start that conversation with you. Data management. Year after year, you've had Guillermo up here talking about the importance of data, why data matters, how it needs to be designed, how it needs to be delivered. I have ongoing concerns that you have all shared with me regarding the security, the fundamental issue of the security of state government data. The ability of your data to talk to the databases in other jurisdictions. The ability for you to contribute to a national database. And what happens when that doesn't occur? What are your weaknesses? Even if you aren't able to purchase our software programs, even if you don't have staff capacity, we want to help you audit and assess your weaknesses so we can together talk about how can we shore up your capacity to manage data effectively. Investigations. My bias here is I started my career years ago in law, prosecuting. I worked with police officers and other investigatory authorities. I very much appreciate the value of readily available resources to conduct investigations. I am hearing from many of you that you've stopped prosecuting a certain type of action because you don't have the capacity. Some of you hire outside law firms to do your investigations. Some of you have a pool investigatory component in your state government, and you're all having to fight for who has priority. And some of you have been told, stop doing this, only do this. It is compromising your basic function to protect the public. Is there a role for NCARB? A grant program, hiring a contracted national investigatory firm? I don't know what the answer is yet, and it's probably different for each one of you, but I want to start having the conversation and exploring how we can shore you up in this fundamental function for state licensing boards. Advocacy. We've only scratched the surface, folks. I hope most of you have gone to the workshop. You've got one more chance tomorrow. We have a good early story to tell. We have fortunately surprised people in being ready and proactive and part of a larger coalition of other professions, not just architecture. We've been smart and we've done it at the grassroots level. We've not done it at the national level. We have data, we have testimony, we have reasonable regulation arguments at the ready. But that's not going to be enough. We're going to have to push harder on this to make it clear that the deregulation wave is fine if it's talking about these occupations that require less than a 4-year degree. It doesn't apply to professions like architecture, and it shouldn't apply to professions like architecture. We've got to rebut the myths that there's no mobility out there when the NCARB certificate is arguably a national model that others should follow as a non-government solution. And we are evolving, we are agile. So all of these myths about the burden of regulation don't really apply, and we have a story to tell, and again, we want to start having that conversation with each of you. All of these are connected, right? If you have better data with good analytics, you're going to be better advocates. If you want to tell your story to help the advocacy, you need good marketing and outreach tools. And if you don't have the right information based on good investigations on how you're performing your function, you aren't going to have that story to tell. So all of this is connected, and that's why I'm really interested in having these deeper discussions with each of you on your capacity shortfalls, your self-reflected weaknesses, and what we can do to help you. There's something else that, if I could draw a heartbeat on this circle in the middle, I would talk about the composition of our member boards writ large. The fact that we are all, and I look at my collateral colleagues out here in the audience, we are all addressing and struggling with this issue of diversity and equity within the profession, right? You all are somewhat captive to the whims of your governors. The only way we get diversity on our state boards and then diversity on the NCARB board is if governors start appointing people from diverse backgrounds. But you can help. Think about your succession plan. Think about underrepresented populations in your jurisdiction. And think about partnering with the AIA component community, the National Organization of Minority Architects, academic institutions, and start finding where the talent is, regardless of gender, regardless of race, regardless of age. We need multiple voices from different perspectives who challenge conventional wisdom to sharpen our approach and make us stronger. We are committed on our end to start populating our volunteer pool with more diverse participation. Because we aren't getting a lot of diversity from the member board level, we are now reaching to NOMA, to AIAS, to our think tank alumni, and to others we meet along the way, asking them to volunteer for NCARB committees. If you go to a typical NCARB committee meeting today, you would be surprised what the room looks like compared to 3, 4, or 5 years ago. Some of those people are now moving up to be on state licensing boards. So we're trying to create our own pipeline onto the state licensing board community. But we all need to lean into this issue and create a bench, a robust bench that truly looks like America and reflects the aspirations of this profession. But we're going to need all of you to work on this with us together. I also want to remind you that you now have the latest edition of NCARB by the Numbers in front of you. We've been putting this publication out now for a number of years. It's the green book. Each year we add a few new features and we refine our existing features. This document is now looked upon by the architectural media, by the federal government, and by some mainstream publications as an essential Bible to talk about the state of regulation, the state of the profession. Let me just bring to your attention a few highlights. So, based on our survey of licensing boards, there's now over 113,000 licensed architects in the U.S., but interestingly, the majority, by a slight margin, have reciprocal licenses of 125,000 plus. This is a new graphic that we've never had before. We're now tracking the reporting of disciplinary data. So I want to put a caveat. In the back of your book, you have the dashboards for each jurisdiction. Some of the jurisdictions it says 0 reported. I want to remind you that NCARB by the Numbers is a snapshot of a calendar year. It's as of December 31st of 2017. So we have some jurisdictions that weren't yet reporting disciplinary data that now are. So we anticipate these numbers to be even better when you see NCARB by the Numbers next year. What we've started doing is that we've had a faithful cadre of states that have been voluntarily giving us their disciplinary data, but a much larger number that have not, for a variety of reasons. So we've now tasked one of our own staff to physically get on the phone after each licensing board meeting and ask, what's your latest number? And we are now populating our database with that additional set of data. There are still some holdout states that are not sharing data with us. We need to better understand if it's a legal impediment, how do we get around it? If it's a capacity issue, how do we help you get there? Your peers in this room rely on you reporting this data. You are not helping the national approach to protecting the public by not sharing your data. This data is really important in making a determination whether someone should receive a reciprocal license, whether someone's qualified to protect the public. So we really need to bear down on this and try to get as close to 100% as we can by this time next year. This is another new graphic. Core requirements refer to the AXP and the ARE. So in terms of completing core requirements within a calendar year, this is a record number. We had over 5,000, over 5,200 licensure candidates that finished their AXP and their ARE in the past year. That's an increase of 11%. This is good news information regarding the pipeline for the future. So, we are working to go further as a staff and as an organization. We have completed a business process re-engineering review of our customer relations function. Over a decade ago, when we hired Doug Morgan to take over what was then called the Records Directorate, we hired an outside consultant to assess our org chart, our functions, our job descriptions, our efficiencies, our tools, and that gave birth to what we have now today is a very effective customer relations function. But you know what? Customer relations is now a science. There's a lot more we can learn about behaviors, about tools, about the right approach to problem solving. We don't pretend to know everything about this, so we've once again brought in an outside expert to audit our customer relations function and give us coaching on how to become more contemporary and more efficient and more responsive. Based on that, our director, Roxanne Alston, has done a little bit of internal reorganization. She's reassigned some people. She's refreshed some job descriptions. We've just implemented this. We're still monitoring its success, but so far, We're seeing an uptick in response rates in terms of time to wait, time to delivery, and we are confident that this is going to yield some great results in the year to come. Our strategic plan. The last strategic plan was issued in 2012. The average shelf life is around 7 years, so next year at our annual business meeting, you will see the refreshed new version of our strategic plan. Many of you have been poked and prodded and interviewed and surveyed and focus grouped on this issue, either through workshops, through being on a committee, or other means. We've tried to take a very exhaustive approach to listening to our members, to our customers, to our board of directors, to our staff. Our board is going to be seeing the first draft of the new plan at its September meeting. We're going to preview it in October at the Chair's Executive Summit. We'll do a little more polishing at the January board meeting, and then we'll move into final formatting and marketing posture for a great reveal at the annual business meeting next year. We've heard about the office move. So for those of you that don't know DC very well, we're moving to the other side of the White House to a property. Washington is having a sustained boom, not only in new construction, but in gut renovations of existing buildings. So everyone's competing with each other with lots of nice sweeteners. So the sweetener that brought us over for roughly the same square footage is waiving rent for 2 years, covering most of our construction costs, a roof deck, a first floor multi-purpose 80-seat facility, an indoor-outdoor reception courtyard for after-hours events, saving $5 million over the 15-year life of the lease, with metro stations right next door. What's not to like, right? So we talked to our leadership on the board and then the full board of directors who approved this change. And then more recently, the board of directors, even in Washington, D.C., building code gets you to LEED Silver. The board of directors voted to go further and go to LEED Gold. So we are adding to our construction budget a LEED Gold fund, and we plan to achieve LEED Gold status within this LEED Platinum building. So by this time next year, when we're in Washington, D.C., we will be having an open house for all of you. We want you to see our office, understand where we work and what we do. So it's been a pretty fun overall experience for us. And then lastly, there's always more to do with our systems, our software programs, the things that you encounter via our website, our portals. So we're in a continuous improvement posture, and we're also undergoing another IT audit, which we think every few years is a good idea. Pay people to hack our system, make sure we're using best practice tools as a nonprofit, so that is ongoing as well. So let me just close by celebrating this wonderful team I'm so privileged to work with. We had a chance to talk with our past presidents yesterday, or day before, I guess now, and I said, you know, looking around the room at these department directors, it's really this stable of thoroughbreds. I'm very fortunate that I can step back and do curating, editing, and coaching, and really just let them run. So I want to reintroduce them to you now. So our Director of Information Systems, Guillermo Ortiz de Zarate. Guillermo, where are you? Stand up and wave if you would. In the back. And his Assistant Director, Rachel Michaels. Are you here also, Rachel? And you know that they're very committed to changing, moving forward based on what they're hearing from you. Make sure you spend time with them. As Bob mentioned earlier, we're also experimenting with monetizing some of the things that Guillermo's team created for in-house use that we're discovering other nonprofits need the same product. So we have a couple of clients already, and we hope this year is going to be a huge year of growth, create some more revenue streams for the council that we can turn into more benefits for you. So congratulations to the IS team for their ongoing commitments. In our executive office, our Chief Operating Officer, Mary D'Souza, is somewhere in here, wearing red in the back. Mary is the czarina of the annual business meeting. She dots the I's, crosses the T's, stays up way too late, but gets it all done, and on a regular basis is overseeing the collaboration aspect between departments, making sure that we are well informed, that we are transparent, that we are functioning effectively, and we couldn't do without her. Also part of the executive office is Christine Schubert, who is a first-time attendee to our annual business meeting. She's our expert in Agile, the project management system that we use, and Christine. And she's sort of our cultural psychologist. She travels around the office to observe how we are interacting with each other, and now we're having her do the same thing with our board of directors. And also my executive assistant, Alinka Chumak, right here in the front row. Alinka. Our customer relations department, we have a huge cadre this time around from that department. I've mentioned Roxanne Alston, and her assistant director is here, Demetra Lewis. Roxanne and Demetra, will you stand and wave? And some of her staff who worked the registration booth and others that were upstairs in the community center. Thanks to all of you for the hard work you're doing and for you riding the wave this year with our re-engineering effort. Our examination directorate, headed up by Jared Zern, and also his assistant director, Joan Peros, is here today. Joan, if you will stand as well. So I've reviewed with Jared some really interesting statistics about the ARE this year. By year's end, we will have doubled the number of exam deliveries. In an average year, we deliver roughly 30,000 exams. We will have delivered over 60,000 exams by the end of the day tomorrow. And speaking of tomorrow, on an average day we deliver 70 exams. Tomorrow we're going to deliver over 600 exams. The last day of ARE 4.0. So you heard the futurists talk about exponential growth, right? It's happened, and it's been an amazing ride because Jared and his team purposefully looked at what worked and didn't work when we transitioned from ARE 3.1 to 4.0. What mistakes do we not want to repeat? So we had a longer overlap. We did more advanced messaging. We created a shortcut that Mr. Calvani was involved with when he was working as the exam committee chair. Some people call it the Calvani shortcut. And this is the result. And we're also hearing great things about the new exam. So congratulations to the Examinations Directorate. Our Council Relations Directorate I was so proud today in the workshop listening to Maurice up here and Marta stepping in and offering some intelligence on what we're doing in the field. The partnership we have with the AIA state component community is terrific. The partnership we have with other professions, and our colleague Joel Albizo is in the room, my counterpart for landscape architecture, and others, and the FARB. Joel is now the president of the FARB this year, succeeding our own Mary D'Souza. This community of professions that cares deeply about reasonable regulation is rallying, and we are part of the solution. We have been one of the organizations that has been convening this group, and I would say leading this group. And there's so much more to get done. And in the meantime, we're talking to the MBEs, we're taking your pulse, we're making sure that we're staying on course with our mission and your mission. So to Josh Batkin, where are you, Josh? Stand. And Nefertari Carver and Marta Zanevsky, our assistant directors. Thank you. Our Experience in Education Directorate, you're going to hear in a little bit about the IPAL program and the reality, as Greg said yesterday, of the fact that we now have graduates. We have 2 resolutions tomorrow coming out of the Education Committee. We are going to also be hearing about a new initiative that we've done with the ACSA and an ongoing activity around the pro-practice community. And so Harry Falconer and his Assistant Director Martin Smith are here today and have just done a bang-up job. Not only that, but doing outreach to the college campuses. So Harry and Martin, thank you very much. And the rest of the E&E team as well. E&E, along with Jared's department, Nick Respecki in Jared's department, Patricia Morayo in Harry's, are co-staffing a new think tank called the Rethink Tank, the recently licensed architect community. And then Matthew Fries in Harry's department is staffing the think tank. These are focus groups that make sure we have new and other voices, unfiltered, uncensored, to call us on the NCARB Kool-Aid issue, to make sure we're not just, believe in our own press here. What's really working? What does it really feel like? What can we do better? So thank you all for doing that. The Administration Directorate, the backbone of the organization that's the least glamorous. Thank you in person to Vanessa Williamson, our Assistant Director, who runs not only meeting planning, but also office administration and has been staffing our new test prep advisory committee, and her director, Doug Morgan. They're both here today, Doug and Vanessa. And arguably, Doug has had one of the heaviest loads this year. Doug also is overseeing the office move, our relationship with our legal counsel, and there's always issues there, managing our budget with the help of Rob Dickinson back home, his assistant director, and Heather Coles, our HR director, as we look to hire the best and the brightest to come to work for NCARB. And finally, our own marketing communications department, these gorgeous graphics that you see every year, the look and feel of NCARB by the numbers, the emails, the social media postings, the other materials that we want to develop for you are all in Andy McIntyre's shop, and one of our medalists this year, our Assistant Director, Amanda Pica, are here. Please stand also, Amanda, and don't hide. And also the rest of the M&C team. It's been so exciting for me, who's also a former journalist, to work with such a brilliant, leaning forward team where we just keep doing more every year. So it's been a great privilege to spend time with you at this conference, to be with this wonderful staff every day, and I look forward to the next part of our conference to come. Thank you very much.